On the day I filed for divorce, my husband laughed and said, "You'll never survive without me." He watched me walk away, confident I'd come crawling back. But months later, he saw me on TV, not as a broken woman, but as a culinary empire builder who turned his mockery into Michelin stars. The divorce papers feel heavy in my hands as David's laughter bounces off the courthouse walls. "A restaurant? You?" He adjusts his Rolex, a gift he bought himself with our joint savings. "You'll never make it in the culinary world, Amanda. You're just a home cook playing pretend." I touch the worn spine of my grandmother's recipe book in my bag, already tasting the sweet flavor of the success to come. Before we begin, here's a story about turning life's bitter ingredients into a masterpiece of success. If you've ever been told you can't, this journey from kitchen prison to culinary empire will inspire your own story. Subscribe to cook up your dreams. Let's dive in. His laugh follows me down the marble corridor, a sound I've grown to despise over our 8-year marriage. A sound that accompanied every denied credit card transaction, every budget discussion that left me feeling smaller than the garnishes he criticized on my plates. The same laugh that echoed through our designer kitchen when I dared to mention culinary school. "Need some spending money, darling?" David's voice drips with condescension as he pulls out his wallet. The gesture makes my blood boil. It's the same routine he's performed countless times in front of our friends, playing the role of the generous husband. But I know better now. Each dollar came with strings attached, each purchase scrutinized in his meticulously kept spreadsheets. I remember the day I discovered the truth about our finances. It wasn't the expensive watches or the golf club memberships that broke me. It was finding the bank statement showing he'd spent $5,000 on a wine tasting course for himself the same week he'd denied me $200 for basic cooking supplies. "We need to be practical with our money, Amanda," he'd said then. "Cooking classes are a waste of our resources." Our resources. The word tastes bitter now. 8 years of having to justify every grocery purchase, of watching him swipe our joint credit card for business dinners while I clipped coupons for basic ingredients. 8 years of shared finances that somehow never seemed to share anything with me. The judge was quite generous with the settlement, wasn't he? David's voice carries down the hallway. "But we both know you won't last 3 months without access to my accounts. Running a restaurant requires business sense, dear. Something you clearly lack." My fingers trace the embossed cover of my grandmother's recipe book, safely hidden in my bag. He never understood why I kept this outdated collection of peasant food, as he called it. Never noticed how I documented every financial slight, every withdrawn amount, every suspicious transaction in its margins. Between recipes for coq au vin and beef bourguignon, I built my case ingredient by ingredient. "I've frozen all our joint accounts," he calls out, his voice echoing off the walls. "Standard procedure, you understand. Can't have you making any rash decisions with our money." I turn, meeting his gaze for the final time. Our money, David? You mean the $300,000 you've been siphoning from our joint account into your private offshore account? The one you thought I didn't know about?" The smirk falls from his face. "Or perhaps you mean the secret account you opened in the Caymans. The one where you've been hiding your bonus money for the past 5 years. His face pales slightly, the Rolex catching the fluorescent light as his hand falls to his side. For the first time there's no laughter, no condescending smile. "How did you? 8 years of controlling every penny I spent taught me a lot about tracking money, David. You should have let me take that accounting course I wanted. Might have helped me miss some of those transactions you were hiding." I pull out a folder from my bag, watching his eyes widen as he recognizes his own bank statements. The judge found these quite interesting during the private hearing last week. As did the IRS agent I spoke with. The sound of my heels clicking against the marble floor is sweeter than any kitchen timer as I walk away. Behind me, I hear him frantically pulling out his phone, no doubt calling his accountant. But it's too late. The accounts he'd used to control me for years have become the ingredients of his downfall. My hand rests on the courthouse door, feeling the weight of freedom beyond it. "Oh, and David?" I turn one last time, savoring the panic in his eyes. "Thank you for teaching me the value of keeping such detailed records. It's a skill that will serve me well in running my restaurant." The sunlight hits my face as I step outside, warming me like the heat of a professional kitchen. In my bag, my grandmother's recipe book holds more than just culinary secrets. It contains proof of every financial manipulation, every hidden account, every lie he fed me along with his criticism of my cooking. David thought he was keeping me confined to our home kitchen, but he really just taught me how to cook up the perfect revenge. My first apartment after leaving David could fit inside our old kitchen. The stovetop has 2 functioning burners, the oven door needs a gentle hip check to close properly, and the countertop is barely wide enough for a cutting board. But it's mine. Every scratched surface, every temperamental appliance belongs to me. The position at Le Petit Jardin isn't glamorous. My hands stay submerged in soapy water for 8-hour shifts, scrubbing pots and pans that others use to create culinary masterpieces. But between the steam and suds I watch, I learn. Every evening I memorize the rhythm of the kitchen, the dance of line cooks moving from station to station, the precise way Chef Marcus plates each dish. "You missed a spot," Chef Marcus says one evening, pointing to a copper pan I've just finished. But there's a glimmer in his eye as he watches me rewash it. "You're different from other dishwashers, Amanda. You watch the cooking more than the dishes." That night after my shift, I pull out the culinary school application I've hidden in my grandmother's recipe book. My hands tremble as I fill it out, remembering David's mocking voice. But the memory only strengthens my resolve. The registration fee takes half my first paycheck, but as I slip the envelope into the mailbox, I feel lighter than puff pastry. The night classes are exhausting. I rush from Le Petit Jardin to the Culinary Institute, still smelling of dish soap, changing into my student chef whites in fluorescent-lit bathroom stalls. My knife skills are rusty, my hollandaise splits twice, but with each mistake I feel more alive than I ever did in David's pristine kitchen. "Your brunoise needs work," my instructor says, examining my diced vegetables. "But your determination." She smiles, noting how I've stayed an hour after class to perfect the technique. "That's something we can't teach." Word spreads through the restaurant that the dishwasher is a culinary student. The line cooks start leaving small tasks for me: herbs to chop, sauces to stir, vegetables to prep. Each task feels like a victory, a step further from David's suffocating control. One quiet Tuesday evening, Chef Marcus catches me experimenting with a sauce recipe from my grandmother's book. I freeze, expecting to be reprimanded for using kitchen resources after hours. Instead he takes a taste. "Interesting," he murmurs, rolling the flavors over his tongue. "Traditional base, but you've added something. Lemongrass? And is that star anise?" He studies my face. "How would you feel about coming in early tomorrow? We need a new prep cook. The promotion means less money. Prep cooks make less than dishwashers." But I accept without hesitation. That night I add another entry to my journal: Prep Cook Le Petit Jardin. Below it I sketch out the next 5 years of my plan, each step taking me closer to my own restaurant. A week later, a familiar face appears at the restaurant's bar. Sarah, David's secretary. My heart stops until I realize she's alone, nursing a glass of wine. She doesn't notice me behind the kitchen door as she chats with the bartender. "Did you hear about David Matthews?" she says, loud enough for me to catch. "The IRS audit is tearing his firm apart. He's barely holding it together, showing up to meetings looking like he hasn't slept in days." I turn back to my prep station, a small smile playing on my lips as I dice onions with newfound precision. The tears in my eyes aren't just from the vegetables. They're tears of vindication, of freedom, of possibilities blooming like fresh herbs in spring. That evening I stay late again, experimenting with a fusion of my grandmother's classical French techniques and the Asian ingredients I'm discovering at the local markets. Chef Marcus watches silently as I plate the dish. A traditional coq au vin reimagined with lemongrass, star anise, and a ginger-infused sauce. "You know," he says, tasting the dish, "there's a local cooking competition coming up. Small stakes but good exposure. Your technique needs polish, but this..." He gestures to the plate. "This is something different. Something personal." I think of David, probably sitting in his empty mansion, surrounded by takeout containers now that there's no one to cook for him. Meanwhile I'm here, my hands raw from work, my feet aching from standing, but my spirit soaring with each new recipe I master. "Sign me up," I say, already imagining the dishes I'll create. In my grandmother's recipe book, between the food-stained pages and financial records that brought down my ex-husband, I begin planning my competition menu. Each dish will tell a story. My story of breaking free and finding my own flavor in the world. The local cooking competition changes everything. Under the harsh spotlight of the competition kitchen, I plate my grandmother's reimagined coq au vin with trembling hands. The fusion of French tradition and Asian influences that seemed so natural in Le Petit Jardin's quiet kitchen now feels audacious under the judge's scrutinizing gaze. Next contestant, Amanda Matthews. The announcer begins. Carter, I interrupt firmly. Amanda Carter. Reclaiming my maiden name feels like shedding an ill-fitting chef's coat. The head judge, celebrity chef Jean-Michel Laurent, raises an eyebrow at my correction before turning his attention to my dish. The silence as he takes the first bite seems eternal. I watch his expression, remembering all the times David dismissed this very recipe as amateur home cooking. Chef Laurent's fork pauses midway to his mouth for a second taste. Miss Carter, he says, his French accent wrapping around my restored name. This is intriguing. The addition of Asian elements to a classical French dish could have been catastrophic. Instead, he takes another bite. Instead, you've created something entirely new while honoring the original. Tell me, where did you learn to cook like this? Before I can answer, a commotion near the entrance catches my attention. David stands there, looking expensive and out of place among the food service professionals. He's holding a local newspaper, and I can see my name in the headline of the food section. Le Petit Jardin's rising star enters regional competition. The base recipe was my grandmother's, I say, turning back to the judges, my voice stronger now. She taught me that tradition is a foundation, not a prison. The Asian influences come from my own experiments, my own journey to find my culinary voice. I win second place overall, but first in innovation. The local food critics are particularly taken with my fusion approach. As I accept my certificate and a modest cash prize, I catch David's expression, a mixture of disbelief and something else. Something that looks almost like regret. The next morning, Chef Marcus promotes me to line cook. Your station, he says, gesturing to a spot on the line that's now mine. Don't make me regret this. But his proud smile betrays his gruff tone. Word spreads quickly in the restaurant community. Local food bloggers start requesting my fusion dishes specifically. One evening, a well-dressed woman sits at the chef's table, watching me work with unusual intensity. The woman at table 7, Chef Marcus whispers during a lull, that's Catherine Lin. She owns 3 of the most successful fusion restaurants in the city. After service, Catherine asks to speak with me. Over late-night coffee, she talks about investment opportunities, about a restaurant scene ready for something new. Your competition dish, she says, it showed something rare, respect for tradition and courage to innovate. I'd be interested in discussing a business partnership. That night, I add another entry to my journal. Potential investor Catherine Lin. The entry sits just below the newspaper clipping of my competition win. Its headline a sweet validation. Home cook turns heads with innovative fusion cuisine. As my reputation grows, so does my confidence. I begin experimenting more boldly during off hours, blending my grandmother's time-tested techniques with flavors from across Asia. Each successful dish feels like a step further from David's shadow. Each positive review a brick in the foundation of my future. Then comes the night that changes everything. An influential food critic arrives unannounced at Le Petit Jardin. Chef Marcus is out sick, and suddenly I'm in charge of preparing my signature dish for someone whose reviews can make or break careers. As I plate the dish, my grandmother's coq au vin now confidently transformed with lemongrass, galangal, and a sauce that took months to perfect. I think of all the times David laughed at my culinary ambitions. The critic's review comes out a week later and it's glowing. She specifically mentions my bold yet respectful fusion of classical French technique with Asian influences. The day the review is published, I arrive at work to find Catherine Lin waiting. I've secured a location, she says without preamble. If you're ready to take the next step. That evening after service, I find an email from David's new girlfriend. She's booked a table at Le Petit Jardin, having no idea of my connection. The irony makes me smile. The woman who replaced me in his mansion wants to taste the food of the woman he said would never be more than a home cook. I look around at my station, at the tools that have become extensions of my hands, at the team that has become my family. Soon this will all belong to my past as I step into my future. I open my grandmother's recipe book, its pages now stuffed with critics' reviews alongside her handwritten notes, and begin planning my own restaurant's menu. Tomorrow I'll give notice to Chef Marcus. Tomorrow I'll begin the next chapter. But tonight I have one more service to run, one more chance to prove that the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with passion, with skill, and with the quiet confidence of a woman who has finally found her true flavor. The space that will become Heritage Modern stands empty before me, its industrial kitchen waiting to be filled with life. Catherine walks beside me, her heels clicking on the concrete floor as we discuss renovation plans. The building has good bones, as they say in real estate, but it needs work. Much like I did when I first left David. The previous tenant was a failed Italian restaurant, Catherine explains, running her hand along the stainless steel counters. But I see something different here. Something uniquely you. She pulls out the preliminary designs, showing where the open kitchen will face the dining room. Your customers should see you work. It's part of the story. The story. My story. It unfolds in my mind as we walk through the space. Exposed brick walls that will showcase vintage cooking implements, windows that will flood the dining room with natural light, and most importantly, an open kitchen where I can demonstrate that fusion cuisine isn't just about mixing flavors. It's about bridging worlds. The renovation begins, and with it the social media campaign Catherine insists upon. Your journey is marketable, she says, showing me the engagement numbers on our first video post. It's a simple clip of me demonstrating my grandmother's technique for rolling out pastry dough, but with my addition of Asian 5-spice to the traditional French recipe. The comments section fills with eager anticipation. Then comes the message that makes my heart skip. A reservation request from Rachel, David's new girlfriend. She's seen the construction updates on Instagram, drawn in by the promise of traditional techniques reimagined. She has no idea she's booking a table at her boyfriend's ex-wife's restaurant. Should we accept it? My host asks, recognizing the name from office gossip. I smile, remembering David's words about my cooking being fit only for family dinners. Accept it. And put them at the chef's table. The irony is too delicious to resist. The renovation continues at a frantic pace. Each day brings new challenges. Permit delays, equipment malfunctions, supplier issues. But I handle each crisis with the same precision I use to plate my dishes. David's financial abuse taught me one valuable lesson. Attention to detail matters. Local food critics begin circling as opening day approaches. My Instagram followers multiply after a video of me preparing my signature fusion dishes goes viral in the culinary community. The hashtag #HeritageMeetsModern starts trending in local foodie groups. Then comes the call that changes everything. A prestigious culinary magazine wants to feature Heritage Modern in their Ones to Watch section. The photographer arrives on a Wednesday, capturing images of me in the nearly completed kitchen, my grandmother's recipe book prominently displayed on a custom-built shelf above my station. Tell us about your inspiration, the writer asks, notebook ready. I run my fingers along the worn cover of the recipe book. This restaurant is about transformation, I explain. About taking what you're given and making it into something stronger, something uniquely yours. The writer's pen scratches across paper, capturing words that I once wouldn't have dared to speak. The night before our soft opening, I receive an unexpected delivery. A bottle of expensive champagne from Chef Marcus with a note, from dishwasher to restaurateur. Show them what you're made of. Opening night arrives in a blur of activity. The kitchen hums with energy as my hand-picked team moves through their stations. The dining room fills with food critics, local celebrities, and curious foodies drawn by the social media buzz. And there at the chef's table sit Rachel and David. I watch through the open kitchen as David realizes whose restaurant he's entered. His face pales as he recognizes me, confident and in command, directing my kitchen with the authority he once tried to strip from me. Rachel, oblivious to the tension, excitedly points to my signature dish on the menu. The very same coq au vin fusion that won the competition. Chef, my sous chef calls out, the first orders are coming in. I straighten my chef's coat, the embroidered Heritage Modern logo gleaming under the kitchen lights. Fire first course for table 7, I command, my voice strong and sure. From my vantage point at the pass, I can see David squirming uncomfortably as each exquisitely plated dish leaves my kitchen. The evening unfolds like a perfectly executed recipe. Each dish tells part of my story. From the amuse-bouche inspired by my grandmother's kitchen to the dessert that blends French technique with Asian flavors in ways that make traditionalists gasp and innovators applaud. As the final dishes leave the kitchen, I step into the dining room to greet my guests. The applause starts softly then builds. Even David, despite himself, looks impressed. But it's not his approval I seek anymore. I've found something far more valuable. My own voice, my own style, my own success. Rachel waves me over, enthusiasm shining in her eyes. Chef Carter, this is the most amazing meal I've ever had. Behind her, David stares at his empty plate, perhaps finally tasting the flavor of his own words. The morning after opening night, my phone buzzes incessantly with notifications. Heritage Modern is trending locally, food critics are posting rave reviews, and reservation requests are flooding our system. But it's the email from the major cooking network that makes my hands tremble. We'd love to feature you on Rising Star Chefs, the producer writes. Your story of transformation through cuisine is exactly what we're looking for. The irony doesn't escape me. The same network where David used to watch celebrity chefs while criticizing my amateur cooking now wants to showcase my culinary innovations. I signed the contract in the same office where I once signed my divorce papers, my signature now flowing with confidence rather than fear. The film crew arrives on a Tuesday, transforming Heritage Modern into a television set. Under the bright lights, I demonstrate my signature fusion techniques, sharing stories of my grandmother's influence while creating dishes that bridge continents and generations. And this recipe book, the host says, carefully handling my grandmother's treasured collection, it's more than just recipes, isn't it? I nod, thinking of the financial records hidden between its pages that helped free me from David's control. It's my heritage, my history, and my future all bound together. Every stain, every dog-eared page tells a story of transformation. The segment airs on a Thursday evening. I watch it with my kitchen team after service, all of us crowded around the bar's television. The cameras capture everything. The confident way I move through my kitchen, the precision of my knife work, the artistic plating that makes guests gasp. Chef Carter's journey from home cook to culinary innovator is a testament to perseverance, the host's voiceover declares. Her unique fusion of traditional French techniques with Asian influences is revolutionizing the local dining scene. My phone buzzes with a text from Catherine. Check your email. Now. The James Beard Foundation has taken notice. They're considering me for their Rising Star Chef nomination. The same award David once told me I'd never be qualified to even dream about. Heritage Modern's success spawns immediate expansion opportunities. Catherine's investors are eager to open a second location, then a third. Each new restaurant maintains the core concept while developing its own unique character. My grandmother's recipes, reimagined through my contemporary lens, now reach thousands. The day my cookbook deal is announced, David's new girlfriend Rachel makes another reservation at Heritage Modern. This time she comes alone. Over my tasting menu, she confides that she left him. Watching you on that cooking show, she says, savoring my 5-spice soufflé, made me realize I was letting him control my dreams too. My appearance on Rising Star Chefs leads to an offer to judge a major cooking competition show. The contract arrives the same day as the first advance copy of my cookbook, Heritage Modern, Traditions Reimagined. The dedication page reads, "For my grandmother who taught me that recipes like life are meant to be adapted." The morning of my first filming day as a judge, I arrive at the studio early. In the green room mirror, I straighten my chef's coat, now emblazoned with both my restaurant's logo and the network's emblem. The producer hands me my judging criteria sheet, and I think of all the times David judged my cooking without any criteria except his own need for control. 5 minutes to places. A PA calls out. As I walk onto the set, the studio lights warming my face, I spot a familiar figure in the contestant lineup. It's David's personal chef, the one he hired after I left, looking nervous in his pristine whites. He recognizes me, and I see the moment he realizes I'll be judging his food. I take my seat at the judges' panel, remembering the day I sat before a different judge, clutching divorce papers and financial records. Now, I'm the one holding the power to judge, but unlike David, I'll do it with the expertise I've earned and the compassion I've learned. Welcome to MasterChef's Challenge, the host announces to the cameras. Please welcome our guest judge, celebrated restaurateur and culinary innovator, Chef Amanda Carter. The applause washes over me like the steam from a perfect stock pot, and I can't help but smile. Somewhere in the city, in his empty mansion with its gleaming untouched kitchen, David might be watching. But his opinion, like his control over my life, has simmered away to nothing. I open my notebook, ready to taste and evaluate. My grandmother's recipe book sits in my bag, no longer a hiding place for evidence, but a source of inspiration for the future. The first contestant approaches with their dish, and I lift my fork, ready to judge with the wisdom of someone who has learned that the best recipes, like the best revenge, require patience, precision, and passion. The irony isn't lost on me as I sign the lease for Heritage Modern's newest location. A beautiful historic building that was once owned by David's family. His father had sold it years ago, and now, through a twist of fate that tastes sweeter than my finest desserts, it's becoming the flagship restaurant of my expanding culinary empire. The renovation will take 6 months, my project manager explains, rolling out the blueprints across what will become our show kitchen. We'll preserve the historic elements while incorporating your signature modern touches. My cookbook, Heritage Modern, Traditions Reimagined, sits at the top of the culinary bestseller lists for the 3rd consecutive week. The morning talk shows can't get enough of my story. The home cook who transformed herself into a culinary powerhouse. During one interview, the host pulls up an old social media post where David had mockingly commented on my cooking ambitions. "How does it feel to prove the doubters wrong?" she asks. I smile, thinking of my grandmother's recipe book, now safely preserved in a custom display case in my original restaurant. "Success isn't about proving others wrong," I reply. "It's about proving yourself right." The expansion continues at a dizzying pace. 3 new Heritage Modern locations open across the city, each with its own unique character but maintaining the core concept that made us famous. The perfect fusion of traditional techniques with contemporary innovation. Then comes the invitation that brings everything full circle. The International Culinary Institute, the same school that sent me an acceptance letter years ago, the one David had hidden, wants me to be their commencement speaker. Standing at the podium facing a sea of fresh-faced culinary students, I spot a familiar face in the crowd. Rachel, David's ex-girlfriend, now pursuing her own culinary dreams. "Your journey begins here," I tell the graduates, "but your story? That's been simmering inside you all along, waiting for the right moment to emerge." The Food Network offers me my own show, a weekly series called Modern Heritage Kitchen. Each episode features me teaching home cooks how to elevate traditional recipes with modern techniques. The pilot episode showcases my grandmother's coq au vin, the dish that started it all. During filming, a production assistant hands me a note. "David has been trying to make a reservation at the new flagship location. He's called every day this week," she whispers. "Says he's willing to pay any price." I think about it for a moment, remembering the days when he controlled every aspect of my life, including my access to our kitchen. Tell him we're fully booked, I decide. For the next 3 years. The day my flagship location opens in his family's former building, I receive a massive flower arrangement. The card reads, "Congratulations on everything. I was wrong, David." I remove a single rose from the arrangement and place it in a bud vase on my grandmother's recipe book display. The rest I send to the women's shelter where I now teach monthly cooking classes. Some ingredients I've learned are better repurposed. My story makes the cover of Food and Wine magazine. The photo shoot takes place in my new flagship kitchen, where the photographer captures me in my element, creating, innovating, leading. The article title reads, "Amanda Carter, Rewriting the Recipe for Success." That evening after the photo shoot, I walk through my empty restaurant, running my hands along the smooth countertops. The space that once belonged to David's family now pulses with my energy, my vision, my success. In the window, I catch my reflection. No longer the hesitant home cook afraid of criticism, but a confident chef who has earned her place in the culinary world. On the wall, next to my grandmother's displayed recipe book, hangs my collection of accolades. The James Beard nomination, the Michelin recognition, the glowing reviews. But it's the small frame holding my first paycheck as a dishwasher that means the most. It reminds me of where this journey began. A knock at the door interrupts my reverie. It's Catherine, holding a bottle of champagne. "Have you seen the numbers?" she asks, grinning. "Your restaurant group just outperformed David's entire investment portfolio for the quarter." We share a laugh as we toast to success, but I'm not celebrating his failure. I'm celebrating my victory, not over him, but over the voice of doubt he once planted in my head. In my kitchen empire, I found something far more valuable than revenge. I found myself. As the sun sets through the windows of what was once his family's building, I begin preparing for tomorrow's service. Each dish I create now tells a story of transformation, of resilience, of tradition reimagined. And the best part? This is just the beginning. The morning my assistant tells me that Heritage Modern is going international, I'm in the middle of filming the season finale of Modern Heritage Kitchen. The news nearly makes me drop the whisk I'm using to demonstrate my grandmother's revised crème anglaise technique. Dubai, London, and Singapore want to franchise, she whispers between takes. They love how you've modernized traditional techniques while respecting their essence. The expansion happens faster than a reduction sauce over high heat. Each new Heritage Modern location adapts to its city while maintaining our core philosophy. In Dubai, we infuse Middle Eastern spices into French classics. London embraces our fusion of British puddings with Asian elements. Singapore celebrates the marriage of Peranakan flavors with European techniques. David, I hear through the restaurant grapevine, has attempted to open his own restaurant, a pretentious French bistro that closes within 6 months. The irony of his failure in the industry he once mocked me for pursuing isn't lost on me, but I'm too busy to dwell on it. Your story inspired me, a young chef tells me during a kitchen interview. She's applying for a position at our new culinary school, a program specifically designed for survivors of domestic abuse. I watched your journey from home cook to restaurant mogul while I was planning my own escape. You showed me it was possible. The culinary school becomes my passion project. Each student receives not just cooking training, but business education, financial literacy, and mentorship. We name it the Phoenix Institute, because everyone deserves the chance to rise from their ashes. On the day we open the school, I receive an unexpected email from David's mother. I should have spoken up when I saw how he treated you, she writes. Your success is well-deserved and your grandmother would be proud. My grandmother's recipe book, now carefully preserved and digitized, becomes part of the curriculum at the Phoenix Institute. Each student learns not just the techniques but the story behind them, how recipes, like people, can adapt and evolve while keeping their essential truth. The Food Network airs a special documentary about my journey. They film me walking through my original tiny apartment, visiting Le Petit Jardin where Chef Marcus still runs the kitchen, and finally standing in my international flagship restaurant. The cameras capture the moment I place my grandmother's original recipe book in its permanent display case. This book, I tell the interviewer, running my fingers along its protected cover, taught me that recipes are like life. They're meant to be tested, adapted, and passed on. Every modification makes them stronger, more resilient. The day the documentary airs, my phone buzzes with a text from Rachel, David's ex-girlfriend who graduated from our first culinary school class. She's opening her own cafe in Seattle, specializing in artisanal pastries. You showed me that the kitchen isn't a prison, she writes. It's a launch pad. Heritage Modern's 20th location opens in Paris, the birthplace of the culinary techniques my grandmother taught me. During the opening ceremony, a Michelin-starred French chef praises our innovative approach to classical cuisine. You have not destroyed tradition, he says in accented English. You have given it new life. That evening after the celebrations, I find myself alone in the Paris kitchen. The space gleams with potential, much like that first small apartment kitchen where I began my journey. On the wall, a photo of my grandmother watches over the pass, her smile seeming to approve of how far her recipes have traveled. My phone pings with a notification. David has given an interview to a local business magazine about his failed restaurant venture. I didn't understand that cooking is more than following recipes, he admits. My ex-wife taught me that, though too late. I closed the article without finishing it. His words, like his presence in my life, have lost their power to affect me. Instead, I open my notes to review tomorrow's special, a dish that combines my grandmother's coq au vin with techniques I've learned from chefs across 3 continents. As I test the sauce one final time, adjusting the seasoning with the confidence of someone who has found her true calling, I smile at the memory of that courthouse day when David laughed at my dreams. His mockery, meant to be a prison sentence, became the key to my freedom. In the quiet of my Paris kitchen, surrounded by the legacy of both my grandmother's traditions and my own innovations, I realized that success isn't just about proving doubters wrong. It's about proving yourself right, one dish at a time. The best revenge, after all, isn't just served cold. It's served with passion, with purpose, and with the quiet confidence of a woman who has learned to trust her own taste. I just want to say something to all women who want to pursue their dreams or follow their passion. Your dreams aren't meant to gather dust on a shelf someone else built. Whether it's a controlling partner, crushing self-doubt, or societal pressure holding you back, remember that every master chef started by boiling water. Every CEO began with a single idea. Every artist first picked up a beginner's brush. Start small. Start messy. Start scared. But most importantly, start today. Your passion is a pilot light waiting to ignite. Don't let anyone convince you it's too late, too hard, or too ambitious. The only ingredients you need are courage and that first step. Remember, the same fire that burns you can also forge you into something extraordinary. Your story isn't written by your past. It's written by every small step you take today towards tomorrow.